let's just get going because I got a lot to talk about today. You'll notice that I am actually our special guest for today. And there's a few reasons for that. So I wanted to take the opportunity today to give you a little bit more background on how we come up with these topics and where the information generally comes from. So for those of you who've been here before, you might have noticed we have some incredible speakers all around the world who have visited us to share more information about topics from board management to board firing to really everything in between, fundraising and grants and grant writing, truly a little bit of everything. But today's topic is a little bit unique, and the reason it's unique is because there are so many opportunities to work with corporate partners, and there's so many different things that you can do with those corporate partners. So I have spent the last month talking to individuals and companies and consultants from all around our amazing nation, and I have collected the best information I could, and I have put it into one presentation for you because what I've found in my own experience, and though I might seem young, I've been working in the nonprofit world for about 12 years. And in doing that, I got my master's in nonprofit management, and I actually specialize in working with corporations and corporate social responsibility. And so I heard a lot of different ways to get involved with corporate partners, a lot. And some worked and some didn't, and some ended up being a lot messier than they should have. And so, what I really wanted to do for you all today as we talk about corporate partners is make it simple. And what I mean by that isn't so much this instantaneous or instant gratification type of thing, but more so giving you a really clear cut way to reach out and to actually start to have an impact and to get those partners and maintain those partners and make a difference. So, I want to kind of kick off with a little bit of an intro. We're going to talk about a few things, some really cool opportunities, and then we'll dive into that information. I'll give you some reminders too on how to access all this information. But please, as I'm talking, interrupt me, talk over me. I promise I'll stop. We can have a conversation about it. And if I miss something or if you have any other questions, I'll make sure to share my email address so you can reach out to me at any time and let me know what questions you might have. Steve, to answer your question, we absolutely send the recording out. We'll also be putting this presentation on YouTube because it was such a heavily requested topic. So I'll make sure to get that all out to you. I'll get the recording out to all of you today, and we'll have it on YouTube probably by early next week. All right, so let's just get started. For those of you who are not part of our incredible community, make sure that you find us in one way or another. We have a really awesome nonprofit community forum on Facebook that is free to everybody. Our consultants at the Canico Agency also frequent that quite often. So if you have questions about something going on in your organization, make sure to touch base with us there, ask your questions, get your answers, and we'll make sure to help you the best we can. I wanted to make sure I just touch base really quickly. Canico has recently offered a new service. So if you're new in the nonprofit community, or maybe you're just getting started and you don't really want to deal with the back end, the compliance, the donor database, all that stuff, it's a really cool service and it's actually relatively inexpensive. So I just wanted to mention it. If you're interested, you can reach out to them at info@canico.com. Thought it was kind of unique. I wanted to also mention this. I know quite a few of you have found us on Facebook or just by hearing me talk about it or hearing somebody else talk about it. But we also have a newsletter that goes out about twice a month. And that's going to be all about free resources, free trainings, these trainings, and anything else that's going on in our community or around the nation, honestly, that might prove helpful to you. So I'm going to add the link to join that newsletter to our chat. Again, no pressure. It's just another option. It's something that I feel might be helpful to all of you. And I want to make sure that you're getting the most out of these things. So let me actually just snag that link really quick while we are on the topic. Sorry about that, guys. Trying to regulate so many things at one time. It always proves interesting. Here it is. And now I could see everybody. Hello. Oh, hey, Jennifer. I'm seeing some familiar names, familiar faces. Welcome, everybody. I like to pause every once in a while and say hello. All right. Well, here is that link. Again, if you'd like to join the newsletter, you can click through there and let me jump back into our presentation. Oh my goodness, guys. Uh, all right, and now I gotta share my screen. Technology, right? At its finest. All right, back into it. Okay, so yes, like I said, we only send it twice a month. We're not going to annoy you too much. A few reminders for the session today. We will send that recording to everybody who's attending here. I'll also have it up on YouTube. You can use the chat role as much as you like. Ask your questions, make your comments. I'll be watching it as I talk. It's a little bit harder when we don't have a guest because I'm talking and reading. And unfortunately, I'm not a great multitasker. We also have an amazing Google folder. I'll be sharing that with you all as a follow-up. The Google folder will have grant opportunities. It'll have free resources for you to be able to really make the most of the topic that we're talking about today and any other topics we've talked about. You'll have access to everything we've done thus far. There'll also be templates in there. So I've created a few templates for you all to be able to use as you talk to your corporate partners. These are templates that I've gathered from some of the people I've spoke to, and I think they're pretty good, honestly. Some of them are pretty full force, I will say. Like you really just don't have to do anything, and I just love that. All right, so one of the things you're going to find in our folders are these grant opportunities. So there are two that are coming up pretty much immediately. And normally we have one of our grant writers on our call with us. Unfortunately, she's not with us today, but she gave us everything you would need to know to be able to apply for these grants. These are just some very, very basic details about them. The first one is going to open up LOIs June 7th to July 16th. And the second one has a June 15th deadline. All the information about who they are, what they're looking for, what types of funding opportunities they have, and in what topics, all that good stuff is going to be in the folder. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but if you do have any questions about them specifically, you can reach out to the Canico Grants team. You can also email info@canico.com. I'm sure they'd be happy to help you. So before I move on, next month we do already have our speaker set. I'm really excited because it's a great continuation from where we're going today. But I want to really start to plan ahead and hear from all of you. So I'm going to pull up a quick poll, and I would really love to hear what topics you would like for us to cover in the coming weeks or months. What needs does your organization have? So I'm just going to launch that poll. I'm going to let it go for a few minutes here, or not minutes, that's a little bit long. I'll let it go for a few seconds. Just feel free to vote on what you feel your organization needs the most, and I'll make sure that I find specialists that really can help us with those topics. Okay. All right. Funding, hot topic, hot topic. I know, I know. All right. A funder panel. I know that's such a big one. That's something I've really been wanting to do. Awesome. So good. I'm going to let this go for just a few more seconds. We have quite a few attendees that have not participated yet. So I just want to let you all tune in, and I'll keep track of this. Most likely, we'll be doing a little bit of all of this in some respect. These are the topics that I've seen have been most requested. But I wanted to maybe give you all a chance to give me a sense of where you're at in this moment, given the current state of all of us and what we're doing these days, to let me know what you might need. All right. All right. So it seems like funding is obviously a big one. I think almost always a hot topic. So I've been working on a funder panel. I'm pretty excited about it. I think you'll all really love it. And so I'll keep you updated on what's coming next. Thank you all for giving me your input on that. And as always, if there's anything that you're working on or anything you're really struggling with, please reach out to me. Again, I'll put my email in the chat box before the end of the session. You can reach out to me and let me know if you have any specific needs. So let's jump right in it. Appreciate you all hearing my spiel, going through a few questions and a few comment opportunities. Oh my goodness, guys, we get to Friday, I forget how to talk. But today we really want to focus on corporate collaborations. And like I mentioned when we were first starting this session, excuse me, there are so many things that this can actually mean. There's so many different opportunities to engage with corporations. But what I really want to focus on today is how to make it happen. How do you actually start a corporate partnership? How do you actually start to interact and make the most of these mutually beneficial, and we'll talk more about that in a second, mutually beneficial relationships? So Before I start again, I want to just share one more time. This information came from multiple companies, consultants, and organizations all around the world. I even talked to somebody who was in Africa, who had a really successful corporate partnership opportunity and shared with me a little bit of their successes. And so I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But this is truly sort of my best practices that I'm sharing with you all. And that's why I chose to present it to you today. So let's get started. What is a corporate collaboration? Well, first and foremost, we want to really make sure that these are mutually beneficial relationships. What I've found in talking with people and even in my own experiences of corporate relationships, if it's not going to be mutually beneficial to the company, they're not going to want to participate. So you really have to figure out ways to sort of sell them on what your organization does and what you can actually offer them. You want to make sure that you are aligned. I cannot tell you how many times people forget about this. And it seems like such a simple statement, but I think when we're looking for funding, we get really excited about any opportunity for funds. But we can't forget how important it is that you and the business share similar values. So, for instance, it makes no sense that an environmental organization would partner with an oil and gas company. That is fundamentally a different situation entirely and just not one that's going to lead to a positive outcome. So really do your research and think about who are these companies? What are these businesses? What are their values? How do they treat their employees? And what are the values of your organization fundamentally? What do your programs and services aim to do? Make sure that you have clear communication with them right from the get go. So, again, I think when we're reaching out to these corporations, we often forget about what are we going to say and why are we saying it? So, right off the bat, be open about what you need and what you both hope to be able to gain from this collaboration. So, some of the benefits of corporate collaborations that I think we often might forget is that it goes beyond funding. So funds are an obvious one. I think corporate sponsorships is obviously a big one. Corporate collaborations as far as getting their employees involved is a big one. But we often forget about what other benefits are included in corporate collaborations. And one of the big ones is that we're always looking for coverage for funds of operating costs. And how many of us have struggled with this situation where grants might not be able to cover operating costs or funding might not be able to cover operating costs from your individual or your, you know, even some corporate donors don't really want it. However, there are so many opportunities when it comes to corporate partnership in particular to cover those operating costs. And there's certain strategies to go about it. A few of the resources in our folder will go over how to include those operating costs when you're going about a corporate collaboration. Another really awesome benefit is improved community recognition. Now, this is something that I think we're all searching for right now. We all want engagement. We all want to be recognized by our communities. We all want to be seen by our communities. And corporations have really clever ways of getting to our communities, whether it be through their products, their services, or just through their marketing budgets and advertising budgets. They have much more capacity for advertising and PR than nonprofits often do. So there's a lot of ways to be able to build on that and improve your community recognition and engagement. Of course, because they have employees and often a lot of them, you can get increased volunteer engagement. So I saw from our poll, there was a few questions of how to get your volunteers engaged and involved again. I think oftentimes, especially now, we have a big question mark on what's going to happen with volunteerism. And thankfully, these corporations oftentimes require that. They require their employees to volunteer or they offer paid time off. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes as well. Again, generally better influence. So, what does that mean? You are going to have more influence on the people you serve, more influence on the people who donate, and more influence on the people that you're communicating with every single day. Why? Because you just have more coverage. So the business can be large or small. I think when we hear the word corporate, we think of these really big conglomerates like Office Depot or ADT or Newell Brands. These are just some that are in my area in Boca Raton. but there's some that don't have to be that large, or at least not quite that large. And they have the capacity to have multiple partners in the community. So if you're a smaller nonprofit, maybe you're just getting started, or maybe you have not had a corporate partner before, it doesn't mean that these larger corporations aren't looking for you. It's all about your cause, it's all about your story, and it's all about that influence that you can have on your community and on theirs as well. It's a relationship, just like a donor relationship might be. So I talked earlier about being mutually beneficial. I'm going to pause for a second, actually. I feel like I'm talking a lot. Does anybody have any questions yet coming up? Any thoughts? Feel free to just speak out. I love the collaboration we often have on these calls. All right, I'm kind of like looking at your faces at the same time. If you're epically confused, don't worry. I'm going to clear a lot of this up. We're going to go through some more options of how to actually do this. And I'm going to give you step by step a process to get you there. So don't worry, we're not there yet. All right, so we talked about being mutually beneficial. You really want to sell this business on why your organization is actually going to help them. Nonprofits inherently have a great name, right? We're a feel good. We help people. We help the world become a better place. And every business wants that kind of marketing opportunity. Trust me. And all the people I talked to over the past month, and by the way, I talked to about 15 people. And in those 15 people, I talked to 3 or more people from the organizations I was speaking with. And in all of that, every single time they spoke to a corporation, the one thing that sold the corporation on working with them was their reputation. What kind of reputation is your nonprofit going to bring to this business? I can guarantee you it's a positive one. It's very rare that a nonprofit is not going to add some level of positivity and excitement to whatever the business is doing. So, how can you help to connect them with the community, their community, your community, whatever clients or people they might serve? Think about who your audience is first, and then expand it to who they might be reaching out to. Think about what marketing opportunities you have. Referencing their partnership in internal marketing materials, such as saying, we're really proud to support XYZ organization, or within your events when you have them, is only going to help them. You might think it's this amazing opportunity to get your name and your logo on a piece of material that they're sharing, but trust me, it's helping them more than it's helping you. They need to show that they're giving back, and this is their way into doing that. How are they going to build morale? So share more about your mission with their employees and even the people that you're talking to every day. I mean, as you build this corporate partnership, you're going to be talking to more and more people. I think oftentimes we're a little afraid to reach out or to maybe say the wrong thing or talk to the wrong person, but reach out to as many people as you can find, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Talk to them about your mission, your story. Tell them something that's compelling. I guarantee you, if I asked every single one of you, what's a story at your organization that sticks out in your mind, that touches your heart, that maybe made you want to be part of it? I bet you have that story. And that's the story that you want to be sharing with them. That's the thing that's going to build the morale of their employees, make their employees want to give and get involved, and make the corporation and the employees that are going to be actually running this partnership stay connected to the cause. You want to build excitement with it, of course, right? But sharing that heartwarming story for their clients to connect with is only going to help them not only understand your story, but help their clients become donors, become supporters, become advocates and ambassadors of your mission. And sharing that's going to help them to connect and become more relatable. So even if you don't have the exact cause, you're finding people who can relate. They want to be able to relate. Ask them to share a story of their own, maybe something that connects back to those like-minded values. Everybody has something that can connect. So for example, I work with a foundation called the Be Like Brit Foundation. And this foundation is sourced from a family who lost their daughter. From that, they created an amazing and very hopeful orphanage in Haiti, but it stemmed from a family. It stemmed from their daughter. Every single person in the world can relate to the love of a family member. Everybody. And so that's where you're coming from. You want to come from that place where everybody can relate to what you're sharing and everybody can relate to wanting to be involved. Offer them data. Now, this is a big one. This is something that only 3 out of the 15 people I spoke to did, but it was the one thing that got them to that next level of partnership. So you might get in the door, but what does your partnership look like? If you're able to offer them data on how their contribution has actually made a difference, they can then show the people who have been stockholders, who maybe sit on their boards, who maybe serve them in some way, their CEO, their the president, vice presidents, whomever is running their business, you're showing them that they're actually practicing these corporate responsibility efforts. I mean, honestly, I'm sure we could do a show of hands, but if you have not yet heard of how big CSR is right now, that corporate social responsibility piece, I mean, over the past year, even especially, that piece to those stakeholders is so critical. So whatever data that you can offer them in, employee involvement, we had X number of employees come out to our event this year, and because of them, because of you, we were able to do this. So it's a really incredible way to keep people engaged, to keep people excited, and to offer them something that will keep their business running in a really solid way. All right, so I saved the best for last, but I think it's pretty obvious that there's going to be some increased sales here, right? Duh. Advertising and marketing between you and them, it's going to increase their brand association, their brand opportunities. It's going to just increase branding all around. And from a marketing perspective, they need this. They need that positive marketing and that positive branding. And they're going to start to associate one with the other. The closer your partnership, the closer that opportunity. Any questions on any of that before I move on? Awesome. Okay, kind of quiet today though. I'm a little nervous. I don't want to lose you completely. But let's just get right into how do you do this? So, how do you actually start a corporate partnership? How do you actually start to connect with them, to offer them these things? What do you say? Who do you talk to? All that good stuff. So, I've kind of created a 5-step process for you all. And this comes again from those conversations I had. I think it's sort of a summary of what people had done to make them successful. And I think it proves to be a pretty good summary. If you have any questions on it, please let me know. I sort of worked this together over the past several days, but I do think it will prove helpful. So the first thing we want to do is you want to list and lean. This is my clever way to create acronyms. I love to get creative when I do these things. So we want to list and lean. So what does that mean? You want to first make a list of your potential partners, and you want to lean on those that can help you to find them. So who makes sense? Who matches your values? Who in your community has a good reputation, right? You don't want to be, maybe partnering with a business that has been in the news for their terrible business practices and they've been abusing their employees. I don't know. I don't think there's been any of that lately, but you want to be really careful about who you're partnering with. If you can tie their expertise to your work, awesome, right? So an obvious one that comes to mind is maybe an animal rescue partnering with Petco or PetSmart. Pretty obvious connection, pretty obvious opportunities, um, and lots of chances to be able to partner on things like that. If it's not so obvious for you, that's okay. It doesn't have to be. But who's a good partner? Who can offer you that? Maybe instead of thinking of those potential partners, maybe something doesn't automatically come to mind. You instead look at your supporters, your board members, your colleagues even. What connections do you already have in your community that you can be introduced to these businesses? Oftentimes, what I find is people forget that their volunteers are people too, and they have jobs. And those jobs oftentimes are for corporations, right? A lot of people have corporate jobs. So take a look at your database. Take a look at who's in your community most immediately. Where do they work? Who do they talk to? What are the kinds of things are they already in? And maybe they can make that introduction for you and at least get you in the door to start to have a conversation about what you do and telling that story. The second step is to make sure it works. Now, again, maybe an obvious one, but we always want to be researching what is coming next. So the reason I added this in is because 2 of the people I spoke with over the past month had found this awesome list of partners. They started reaching out. They even got so far as to create contracts with them for partnership. And it turned out that the partner didn't really understand what it meant to be a corporate partner, and it completely fell through. And it was literally 6 months of planning and nothing happened. So you really want to make sure that it's going to work. Just because a partner sounds good doesn't mean it's going to be. So take the time to really make sure your values align. Take the time to understand, what do they actually do in the community? Do they have marketing materials? Do they have an advertising budget? And you don't have to do this by asking questions. It's a simple Google search. See where they're at online. Where are they selling their things? Who are they talking to? Are they part of any kind of community groups like chambers, or very specific to their profession? It could be absolutely anything, but you want to really make sure you're doing that research. Listen, 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 listen. I don't know if you've noticed it yet, but the pictures that I associated with the steps are the number one things I would be looking at. You really want to make sure that you're listening to them and offering them solutions as well. You might not realize it, but oftentimes whatever you're doing for your communities can actually be something that they need. So maybe you're an organization that offers interview skills building, or you're reviewing resumes, or maybe you're offering food for the poor, or an opportunity to connect with people. That's actually something that I think is definitely toned down, and people don't realize how much they need it. But think how many corporations are now online. Even with going back to work, they're staying online, and they need that opportunity to connect. So when you're first meeting with somebody, really listen into what their business is going through. What's their situation? What are their needs? How can you actually help to provide a solution through this partnership? Really get creative here. I think that's an opportunity to do some research beforehand as well and offer them options. But maybe think about what your organization provides as a service and how they might be able to help their employees in some way as well. All right. Number 4, the logistics. How is this all going to work? So there's more on the next slide about this, but you want to start to think about your needs now. Do you need volunteers? Do you need sponsorship for an event that's coming up? Or maybe you just need a direct donation for a program or a project that you're working on. Think about the 3 key words in nonprofit work: time, talent, and treasure. Do you need their time? Do you need their expertise or talent? Maybe they donate legal services or insurance services. Or do you need the treasure that they can provide in financial purposes? Consider how those contributions that you would need to receive from a corporate partner versus the benefits that they would, maybe just be nice to have. Then come ready with a few options. Share with them what opportunities there are to get involved with you. I know that we all have opportunities, of course, for funding. If there's a project or a service that you're working on, maybe something new, something changed since the pandemic started, maybe it's something that's online versus in person. Give them as many options as you can and see what resonates with them. You can develop it from there. But when you're first talking with somebody, you want to make sure that they have these ideas kind of flowing in their mind so they can get a sense of who you are. And then finally, we want to make sure that we're planning. So you can present it all, and that's great. But these new partners need to be able to think about the future. So they might have helpful ideas that can contribute to your plan. So make sure to share how you'll need their help and what difference it's going to make if they do help. You want to show that their impact matters. It's not just another partner, it's not just another check. It's something that's long term, and it's something that you really need. And so from there, and this is my final thought in the process, and one that I think, again, often is forgotten: make sure you have a contract or at least an email. I'm talking too much. Sorry, guys. Make sure that you have something there that is detailing this agreement or detailing this relationship, and spell it out for them. You want to make sure, again, that it's mutually beneficial, it's productive, and it's collaborative. This is not something that's intended to be one-sided. It's not something that's intended to be a nice conversation and see you then. Make sure you have this in writing. Of the 15 people I talked to, 14 of them had failed partnerships because it wasn't in writing. That was like an astounding statistic in my brain. I couldn't believe that somebody wouldn't put it in writing, but it's something that I think, in the excitement of it all, and probably in the busyness of it all, because you're doing other things, of course, you forget. So if it's not a contract, make sure it's an email. Okay, any questions from here so far?
I have a question.
Yeah, Dave, go ahead.
Just when you talk about contract, that's not, you're not talking about like some legally binding contract. You're just trying to get something in writing so they're in some way committed, correct?
Exactly, exactly. And sometimes you might need something that's legal if there's, like a direct exchange or an agreement involved. I don't think honestly that will happen very often unless it's a really large scale event and they've committed to provide a certain degree of services or provisions. Um, but no, what I mean by that is just to have it in writing so that if they're like, we never said that, what are you talking about? You have at least an
Right.
email that clearly says they did.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're going to show us some examples of that, maybe?
I'm gonna share them in the folder
Yeah.
that I'm gonna share with you after. So you'll have templates and resources of all those things because I think it really depends on your needs. So I didn't want to show you too specific of an example.
Yep.
Go ahead, Steve. Yeah, you have a question?
Just a tip. Uh, After I deal with a lot of different people, a lot of different agencies, and I have one to do as soon as this Zoom is over.
Oh,
But once I finish with the conversation, I write to the person and say, "This is my understanding of our conversation. Please confirm." And that's kind of what you're talking about, like contract, because then we have it to refer back to if there's any misunderstanding, and it's easy to have misunderstandings.
absolutely. And I love that idea. It's like a summary of what you spoke about. I mean, it's also a good reminder for them to know you mean business and you were excited to have the opportunity to speak with them. So I love that. See, a really great idea. Thank you. Yeah, and I say contract because anything written is technically, I hate to say binding, but it's binding enough. It's good enough, and it will help you in formulating these agreements.
Diana, I had two
Yeah,
questions as well.
sure.
One
Sorry, I
is,
can't see everybody.
okay, there's a lot of new businesses that are coming into Palm Beach County specifically.
Yeah.
So do you have any recommendations on A, how to find them? And B, if you don't have someone who can make that connection because they're new, is HR the starting point, or is there a department that you start with?
Like the best question ever. I mean, it's not just Palm Beach County either, because I mean, all around the world, new businesses are popping up like crazy. So amazing question. Amazing question. Sorry, I have like a tickle in my throat. So two things. I would say first and foremost, in terms of how to find them, I love setting up Google alerts. I don't know if any of you all do that. But I would set up a Google alert for new business and Palm Beach County, or new business and Boca Raton, or new business in Delray Beach, or whatever it is. And that way you'll get notifications when a news story pops up, a press release, any kind of announcement regarding that kind of company. Related to that, who I would contact to be able to start to reach out to them is your local chamber. They're really surprisingly helpful. I think people think of chambers and it feels a little bit like salesy, kind of, but it can be the most helpful resource in connecting to something that's new. And what I mean by that is saying that they know well in advance when a new business is going to be popping up, because oftentimes they'll do a ribbon cutting or, like some sort of big announcement on their website. And they really want to help their nonprofit. So, like, I don't know where exactly you are in Palm Beach County, but I would contact the Delray Beach Chamber of Commerce. They have a nonprofit council, and that nonprofit council oftentimes will notify nonprofits when new businesses are coming to town, so that they can do exactly what you're talking about, reaching out. And likewise, for anywhere that you all are, the chambers will provide that information. But Google Alerts is a great place to start too. Of course. Any other questions? I'm sorry, I can't see everybody. So if you're raising your hand, just yell at me. Okay. Awesome. And we'll have some time for questions at the end as well. So, don't worry, we'll get to it. I'm talking really fast, so we got plenty of time. All right. So here are just some ideas that you can offer the corporations. And these are ideas that come from what I have found is the greatest need. So the first one, of course, is volunteer programs. So as we get back into things, you're going to see that you're going to need the help. So maybe it's an intern opportunity, and it's more so you need help from the back end, maybe you have admin work that you need help with. Maybe you have more specific work that you need help with, like expertise that might come from their corporate employees. So they all have general counsel. They all have, parts of and pieces of their organizations that they can probably offer services to you. And those corporations do offer paid time off to their volunteers, or they even require this time. So make sure to check in on how they can get those employees sent to you for help. Again, it's oftentimes required, especially if it's like a mid to large size corporation. I've rarely seen it where they don't have that kind of a program set up. And thankfully, there's at least 1 to 2 corporations in your area, I guarantee it, that will be set up in that way. And they actually will contract with smaller companies to encourage them to do more volunteer work. So they'll actually support it and pay them to get them out into the community. It's a really wild thing that not many people realize. So make sure you're capitalizing on that. Of course, asking for direct donations, cash or in-kind donations, one time or year long. If you have an event coming up and you need, tablecloths, I don't know, whatever it might be really specific with them though. I would go to them with a specific request. If you have something going on, you need $5,000 for, ask them for $5,000 and tell them exactly what it's for. Try to not leave too many open-ended questions. I always try to think of it as though corporations are in double time of whatever we're at. They don't even think twice about things. So make a good first impression. Corporate sponsorships, of course, this is event related. So businesses will sponsor that specific program or event and help to offset the cost of your event. I think we're almost always familiar with this one. In return, you'll display their business name at the event or in advertising materials. Again, super common. We've all done this. It's a little bit different now, though. So try to get creative with how is your event formatted now? Is it really different? Is it online or is it in person? Or maybe it's a hybrid of the two. How can you be setting yourself apart from other nonprofits and offer them an opportunity to be a corporate sponsor and have their name on things that they might not have been able to before? And there's a few templates I'm going to give you guys in the folder, a few resources for you all that will highlight some of these ideas. I saw some really cool ones in just talking with people, everything from like a oven knit set because they were doing like a bake off to, really, it was like ideas were flowing. It was just amazing. So get creative with this one, especially now. There's just so many opportunities for them to be involved as a sponsor. Workplace giving. So this is a really fun one. And it's great if you run any kind of drive for goods. So if you ever need any kind of actual physical donation of stuff, or if you can get creative with some sort of competition. And we're going to be talking more about this one next month. So it's a little sneak peek into our next topic. But it's going to really be able to drive not only actual funding opportunities or giving opportunities, but it's also going to really drive that engagement, because think of how many of these people will be on social media. Maybe they'll share a workplace email or announcement. It's a really, really great way to drive engagement, drive that connection. And then finally, corporate partner fundraising. Now, this one is actually one that I don't see people do very much. I don't know why. It seems like a really easy one, and it's a really great way to meet new partners or meet new potential connections. So instead of asking the corporation or its employees for donations, they're going to actually set up a donation station with their clients. So their clients can contribute either like a, roundup type of promotion, or maybe they offer like $10 from every sale will go to your nonprofit. It's just a really unique way to get customers involved as well. And it's something that they can do super, super easily on any of their online systems. So if they're a company that offers online purchasing, if they're a company that offers sales on the phone, like they're selling them on a service, they can do this no matter what they sell or what they do. So it's a really easy way for your name to get out to their clients, and then for you to then be connecting with their communities as well. And again, I didn't see this that much, but it's really easy, and I don't think corporations think of it. So that's why it doesn't happen very often. Okay, any questions before I move on to actually connecting with your companies? Talking too fast. I should really learn to slow down. Loving seeing so many new names. I should have introduced myself better, but welcome everybody again. I'm going to do that just one more time. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about how to actually get in touch with these companies. I have to tell you that I think companies are scary. When I was first out of my undergraduate degree, I wanted nothing more than to work for a large corporation and be considered a number because of the intimidation factor of working absolutely anywhere else. I felt like if you worked for a corporation, you were just a part of like a club. And I don't know why I thought that way, but I think even to this day, we often look at these large corporations and we feel like they're untouchable, like you can't talk to them, but they're people. And the best way to connect to people is online. Sad to say, because I'm a talker, as you have been able to see from my 41 minutes of nonstop chatter. But honestly, people love to connect online, and LinkedIn is an absolutely incredible way to connect to your corporate partners. Of all the people that I talked to this month, every single one of them got their corporate partnership through LinkedIn. Like, wow, that's amazing to me. So this is exactly how you can do it. So you really want to first, and I'm just going to talk generally first too about LinkedIn and about what that actually means, and then I'll go into how to specifically reach out to these corporations. So the first thing you want to do is, I don't know how we can do this, maybe show of hands or just like a yes, no, I don't know. But I'd love to know how many of you are on LinkedIn as an organization. Anybody on LinkedIn as an organization? Yeah, are you, Dave?
I don't know. Actually, I should
don't know?
know, but I don't.
That's okay. That's okay. How about professionally? Are you all on LinkedIn professionally as individuals? Okay, I'm seeing some head nods. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I got the thumbs up. Oh, what did I just do? I moved on too fast. Oh my God, how do I go back? Okay, that's great. All right, so if you're not on as an organization, then at least you're on as an individual, and that's fine. So what you first want to start to do on LinkedIn when you're connecting with these large corporations is you want to stay top of mind as a resource. So what does that mean? If your organization is serving the community, as far as providing a service or a program to them, how can you share that service as a resource to the general public? So maybe it's the top 5 ways to help the homeless in Palm Beach County, if you're a Palm Beach County homeless shelter, for example. But think about ways to be relatable. How can people help in a very easy way? And so that becomes a resource to somebody. If they're looking for a way to get involved in helping the homeless population, they have from you the 5 ways to help them. So always start to act like a resource. Figure out ways that you can really share with your community what you're able to offer. Thank you, Clark. I just saw your chat. Awesome. I'm so happy to see that we have some people on LinkedIn. And again, if you're not on LinkedIn, it's okay. It's not like you're, like failing as an organization, but I would definitely encourage you to do so. LinkedIn is an incredible resource, and people are looking for ways to get involved. So if you can find that way to loop into them, please do so. Start with a search of criteria. Now, what I mean by that is if you don't yet have a list of potential partners, think about what criteria you want to have in a partner. So maybe it's that you want to work with a medium-sized corporation. You're not quite ready for the big guns. You're not quite ready to take on all these really large organizations. But what is the criteria that you want to work with? Do they have to be local, or are you open to working with somebody who has a headquarters in Boston and you're in South Florida? Do you want to be able to meet in person, or maybe they're a completely virtual organization completely? You can actually search for the criteria that you're looking for right in LinkedIn. From there, and once you find these companies on LinkedIn, you can start to find a referral. So I gave you the exact way to do this. And how you're going to do it is you're going to go onto that company page. Oh, bless you. And in the top right, you're going to see in blue the word "See All Employees" on LinkedIn. Once you click that, you're going to get a list of all of the company's employees, or at least those employees that have listed that they work there on LinkedIn. And it's going to include not only their names, but their positions, their locations, and most importantly, what level connection you have to them, or what connections you have to them. So of course you want to be looking for the number one, the first connection. Ideally, maybe a number two, maybe you know somebody who knows somebody, or you can just find a way in somehow. It's okay, by the way, to send them like a cold message. It's okay to send them like a, hey, saw you work here, love what you guys do, would love to be able to talk to you a little bit about what I do. But if you do have a connection to them in some way, shape, or form, this is your opportunity to reach out to that connection and ask them to just make an introduction. Make it simple. Say, hey, I see you're friends with so and so, they work here. I see a really awesome opportunity for us to collaborate on some projects upcoming. Would love to be able to connect with them. Don't make it about you. Remember this mutually beneficial relationship, but make it about this awesome opportunity you have to collaborate. And here's where it gets exciting. 10-minute call. Do not schedule an hour-long call with these people. 10 minutes is all you need to highlight what you want to do. And here's how you're going to do it. So what do you say? Your background, your highlights of the background. I stress that word highlights. I even wrote that down. I stress it. Highlights. I am blank. I work at blank. I do this, and this is why I'm here. Period. Highlights. How did you end up at your organization? Give the highlights. What are your objectives? What's your end goal? Why do you want to partner? And don't say it's for fundraising. They don't like that. I think everyone knows it's for money, right? We all want money, but don't say that. What you are going to bring to that partnership, and why are you an ideal partner? Now, here's where the highlight piece comes into play. I would try to write down 3 to 5 words for each of these questions before you even get on the phone. What do you actually bring to the partnership? So this goes back to what we started with. What's the point? What are you going to help them with? What's your solution? Why are you an ideal partner? I find what works best is just by saying, I want to help you. Period, because it's open-ended. Let them tell you what they want. Why are they your ideal partner, and why did you decide to approach them? So this is where you go back to your values. As much as they're corporations, they still have those values, and their stakeholders want to hear that they're using them. Oftentimes you'll see they'll have the columns that represent their organization. They might sound kind of cheesy, but use them if you can. Okay, what do they bring to the partnership? How do you want them to participate? Be blunt. They oftentimes don't have time to think about these things and, oh, well, we can do X, Y, Z, or we can do this, or we can do that. Just tell them right off the bat, what do you want them to do? How do you want them to participate? This is where having a few options already ready to go will prove really, really helpful. Here's a big one, the potential for mutual wins of the partnership by joining forces. This is where I like to talk about advertising and marketing. How are you going to improve their reach? What's the end state of that strategic partnership? So at the end of all this, what's it going to look like? I like to say something like, I think at the end of this year, we can really get out in the community and show that we are making a major difference for our community. Again, open-ended. It leaves room for them to tell you what they want and what they're looking for. And just a hint at the very end of what other things you could possibly do in the future. You want to show that this partnership is long-term. So maybe tell them about something you've been wanting to do for years. Hey, we're working on this big project or program and it's about to launch. I'd love to be able to keep you in the loop so that in the future, your organization could be the exclusive partner for this opportunity. The word exclusive gets people excited. I still can't figure it out, but it does, and it works. So use it. Any questions on that? I know it sounds like this is a lot of information to jam pack into 10 minutes, but surprisingly, it can happen. And if it goes longer than 10 minutes, let it be because they're excited by what you're saying and they want to talk more. So I schedule like 30 minutes. See how it goes.